Today I'm going to show you 4 amazing immunity boosting recipes that are just so handy to have on hand. The first one that I'm showing you is a honey garlic, and I know that sounds so weird, honey garlic, but this is a fermented honey garlic. It takes 30 days to be ready, and actually I had a pediatric nurse teach me this, and funny enough, she says that her kids have never had antibiotics and they're around 10 years old because every time they start to have any kind of tickle in their throat, she feeds her kids this. So that convinced me that I have to give this a try. And I don't know if you've ever tried this trick with garlic, but you can just press it down and then stick it between 2 bowls and shake it, and it helps get the skins off a little bit. See how they've peeled a little bit more. I have a band-aid on my thumb through this whole video because I really sliced my thumb this week cutting sourdough bread with a serrated knife with a baby on my chest, and it was horrible. I ran out the door holding my thumb together and had a friend steri strip it, praise the Lord, but it hurt really bad. So yeah, just be careful cutting sourdough with a baby on your chest. That's all I gotta say. I just put all this garlic completely peeled in the jar, and as you are gonna see, I'm just gonna cover it with honey. It's really that simple. You just burp it 1 time a week. You just let the air out. That's basically what that means. And the kids have loved putting it up and down. They think it just looks like a fun experiment. I got some local honey for this, and that really is important because I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the honey at the store is just cut with other ingredients. When I can get local honey, I like to try to do that. Oh, and my phone was laying out. I am going to make a video soon because I switched from using a smartphone to this little light phone. I have more to tell you on that, but have been using this light phone since around, I think, July maybe. So that's the honey and garlic. The next thing I want to show you is just how to make some easy chicken broth. There's really no reason to buy the box stuff from the store. I am telling you, once you make real broth, you will see how completely different it is and just how simple it is. I used to make it with a whole chicken, but lately I've just been making it with cheap drumsticks, and it's really nice because a lot of the meat is still intact on the drumstick after, and my kids just lap it up. But I just submerge it with some water and I just boil it for like an hour, probably about an hour and a half, sometimes 2, and just let it simmer. And boom, you're gonna have broth. And this is so good to sip on, completely different than box broth. The next thing I'm making is elderberry syrup. Now there's a lot of different recipes for elderberry syrup. I've been making it for a couple of years with this recipe. This time I decided to add more ginger. I like ginger, some people don't. And what a lot of people don't know about elderberries is, they're pretty much poisonous before you cook them, but they're everywhere. Like, I haven't foraged for wild elderberries, but I hear from people that once you know what to look for, you can really find them in a lot of places in North America. So here I'm just adding cinnamon, cloves, and my ginger, and I'm just gonna put it on sealing, and you just cook it for 12 minutes. It's really that simple. Like, when you think about how much elderberry syrup costs at the store and you see how much it yields making it at home, it's so simple. So I'm gonna let that chicken go for a little longer, and you're gonna do quick release on this, which means you're not gonna let it come, that little red dot, you're not gonna let that come down on its own. You're gonna quick release it. And while that's kind of coming down, I'm gonna start on my pickles. My kids love to eat pickles, but a lot of pickles are made with vinegar, and it's really simple to make them fermented just to help your gut out. And that's what we really need throughout the wintertime to help our immune system. It's just a really healthy gut. I feel like we've had way too much sugar lately, and I just want to start working on fermenting things, because if we can just add a little bit of fermentation, some fermented foods to every meal, I feel like that's just really going to feed our gut, and our gut is so important to our immune system. I took a gut class from my friend Molly Mason, and I learned about the importance of the gut. It's an amazing course if you want to improve your gut health, but just adding fermented foods is so important. I'm doing 1 tablespoon of salt to a quart of water, and I'm just going to submerge it, and it's not going to be ready for like 7 to 10 days, which my kids are really bummed about looking at it. Pretty simple, and the major key is just to make sure that all the cucumbers are submerged under the water. And I'm actually going to go back and add some dill tomorrow to this, but I did not have any dill today, but I just wanted to go ahead and get it started. So you're just going to put it like that and submerge it under. It's really that simple. And then I'm going to cover that up with something. So my elderberries are done, and this is messy. Like, elderberry syrup can stain. With elderberry syrup, you really can't OD on it. It's just got a lot of sugar, so that's just something to be aware of. But we can just have some, pretty much every single morning. And then, if you wake up not feeling great, man, you can just hit it every single time you open the fridge. It's really more likely that you're going to just have way too much sugar than anything. But I like to just press out the berries because there's so much more juice in the berries. But that's not going to taste good the way it is right there. You've really got to have some honey for it to taste good. And before I finish my broth, I have broth that was left over from a couple days ago, and I don't think we're going to drink that immediately, so I'm going to freeze it. And I don't know if you've ever seen these super cubes. They are so handy to have to freeze soup, broth, really anything. I really want to ask for some more for Christmas because they're so handy. Just stir in the broth. I think it needs just a little bit more time. So you want to let the elderberry juice cool for a little while. I think I personally let it cool too long today. I let it cool for 20 minutes. I think 12 minutes is like a sweet spot, because if it's too hot, it's going to damage the properties of the honey. But if it's too cold, I feel like the honey and the elderberry juice just doesn't come together great. And I don't know if you've ever seen this little handy tool for honey or peanut butter, but it is amazing. I use it to make protein bites, and it helps you measure honey and peanut butter without wasting it. So I set a little bit of the juice aside before I added the honey, because I'm actually going to make some for my baby. I tasted it and it needed a little bit more honey, and that's what you got to do, is just taste it. If it's just too bitter, you've got to add a little bit more honey. And as you can see, all that honey's there at the bottom and just didn't come together because it got too cool. But when you go to take it, you just need to shake it up every time. So I'm adding some maple syrup to the babies. They just recommend not giving babies under 1 honey because of fear of botulism. I don't know if, she's that close being 10 months, but I'm just going to be on the safe side. So the chicken broth is ready. And chicken broth, oh my goodness, it's just so good to sip on throughout the whole winter. It just makes you feel so much better. I could probably have a more exact science to figure out whether this chicken is done or not, but I usually just pick it out of the pot after an hour and a half or 2 and just see how it falls off the bone. Now, it's always going to look a little bit pink because it's right there by the bone. I probably should get some kind of meat thermometer or something, but I feel like it's done. And just chicken broth is so nice to have to sip on. I feel like it's obviously so delicious in chicken noodle soup, which is pretty darn easy to make. It used to be really intimidating, but if you have a really yummy broth, it's going to just transform a soup. I love to make bone broth, and I have a whole video showing you how to do that. But I don't feel like bone broth is great for sipping. I feel like the chicken broth is definitely a better sipper. Obviously, I need to get a funnel here badly because it's just going everywhere. And it really hurts because it burns you. So, yeah, I need to get a funnel. But the other thing, too, when you make this, it's really important to leave it out on the counter for a little while just to let it cool down, because it heats up the temperature in your refrigerator, which I didn't know for a while. But if I don't use it in some soup or we don't sip on it, I will just freeze it like I froze that other broth. If you want the recipe to these 4 immune boosters, just head to the link down in the description box. I'll send them to your email. If you want more content that just helps you enjoy motherhood a little bit more, I hope you'll hit subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.